Sambatskano Mongolia, many near Allison, and welcome to Talk With Me.
Now, my first guest is an amazing woman who I happened to cross paths with while driving from Hof to Bayanogi. She wears yellow leather, a bushy blonde wig, and rides a 20-year-old 750cc motorcycle she's coined her steel horse. After many mishaps and adventures, this 39-year-old artist and explorer arrived in UB 2 weeks ago. Not just from Western Mongolia, where I met her, but rather via Western Mongolia, through Kazakhstan and Russia, all the way from Devon in the United Kingdom, a total of just over 10,000 kilometers. But that's not all. She completed this journey solo.
She's gutsy, she's blonde, and she's here with us. Veronica Feeling, welcome.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Thank you for being on our show. Now, tell our audience, where exactly have you arrived from? Tell me about your journey. I know you've traveled 10,000 kilometers, but where from?
Oh, I left the UK from Bristol in the UK and travelled up through Scandinavia, going through Denmark, Sweden and Finland to St. Petersburg, and then I came across Russia into Kazakhstan and then popped back up to dive down into Western Mongolia, where I met you.
Exactly. I met Veronica in Western Mongolia and was very concerned about her, but she assured me she was okay. And what most viewers don't realize, of course, Veronica, is that you did this journey alone, solo.
It's the only way to go. Nobody was crazy enough to come with me.
Veronica, what did your friends and family say when you told them, I'm going to ride my motorcycle around the world via Ulaanbaatar?
They wished me good luck. Actually, funnily enough, I just had an email from my father this morning saying, please come home before you're completely insane. So I think most of my friends live vicariously through me. They say, off you go and do it for us, and come back in one piece.
I still can't get over this. Veronica, you ride a 750cc 20-year-old Honda motorcycle. Now, I've spoken to a few people who've traveled through Mongolia on dirt bikes. What is different about your motorcycle? And tell me about some of the comments you've received.
Well, it's completely unsuited for the job, which is one of the reasons why I chose it, because I like that aspect of folly. You know, it's like trying to climb the Himalayas in high heels. You know, it's just a ridiculous task. And actually,
but someone should do it.
Someone should do it, and someone dressed like a superhero. And I was actually stuck in the Gobi Desert at one point, and this Russian rider came past on an Africa Twin, which is very well suited to the terrain, and he just stopped and looked at me and he went, crazy woman in Gobi, and drove off again. So I'm getting mixed reports from the world.
Now, Veronica, this morning you joined us. Veronica had an eye patch on, and there was a little mishap that you had in the Orkhon Valley. And would you care to tell our viewers what happened?
Well, I believe you're talking about the face, aren't you?
Yeah.
I got bitten by a spider of some description. By the time I looked at him, it was impossible to tell what kind of spider, let's say. And so my face slowly swelled up over about 6 days, and I've eventually got some drugs, some antibiotics, and antihistamines. Yeah, it just looks like I've had a fight with a cupboard door, you know.
No, it's okay. You're looking much better than when I saw you a few days ago. Listen, how do you find the Mongolian people? Have they welcomed you with open arms?
Yeah, absolutely. Do you know what? One of the reasons why I wanted to come to Mongolia was to look at nomadic lifestyle sort of firsthand, because I have this terrible difficulty with staying in one place. I'm always happy when I'm moving around, you know, and I don't know whether it's because they can't find me that way, but and one of the things about nomadic culture is that everybody sort of talks about is how welcoming people are, yes, because they understand how difficult it is to be travelling through somewhere that you don't know, and so I've just had the warmest amount of respect and love from everyone I've come across.
It's an amazing country, isn't it? What about the language barrier, Veronica? I mean, you don't speak Mongolia, you've traveled through the country. Have you encountered any difficulties communication-wise, and how have you dealt with this?
Well, you know, I'm very low maintenance. All I really need is food, too much food probably, water and somewhere to sleep, and you know, you can communicate that very, very simply, and then everything else, you know, I'm a bit of a comic character, so we do communicate through the medium of laughter quite a lot. I'm not sure if it's too directional or not. I think I'm more of a figure of fun.
Veronica, back onto your journey here. Exactly how long did it take you to get from the UK to UB? How many months, days have you been on the road?
I left on the 18th of June, so I think I arrived around the 3rd of August. So it was about 6.5 weeks. But I mean, I wasn't rushing. I didn't want to be just this yellow blur going past people. Yeah. So, you know, I've taken my time.
Veronica, when I passed you in Bain-Olgiamig, I was driving from Hovd to Olgi, and I came across Veronica, this blur of yellow down the road. And shortly after we met, something happened to you, and we've got some photos I've showed viewers, but can you tell me about that experience and what you may have been thinking at the time?
I learned some hard lessons that day. So I was staring at the river, thinking, how am I going to cross this river with this ridiculous big sports bike that I can't pick up on my own? When I drop it, it's too heavy. And yeah, so when you said, are you okay, and we parted company, yes, I was like, yes,
are you okay?
Fine.
Do you need antibiotics? Do you want me to call somebody? No, I'm fine, so good. But she wasn't 10 minutes after.
Oh gosh, yeah, so you disappeared, and I thought, okay, now I'm going to do it. But before I do it, I'm going to set a camera up and put this, this isn't real, by the way, viewers.
It's a signature. It's a signature.
My signature look. So I put the camera on and put the wig on and went for it. But okay, so if you're on your own, keep your speed up and keep your head up when crossing rivers. Do not film it, and do not do it wearing a wig. I fell in, and the bike was stranded in the river, and luckily it was only 20 minutes before those guys came and helped me out.
Chewing on a piece of grass, walking down the road. Tell me, how long you gonna stay here, Joe? Some people say this town don't look good in snow. You don't care, I know. Ventura Highway in the sunshine.
So tell me about these two men that stopped and helped you. How did you flag them down? What did you say?
Well, they were coming through the river as well, and obviously, you know, two up on one of these Chinese bikes, straight through, no problem. And yeah, one guy sort of took his socks and shoes off, and we manhandled it out.
And of course, being in Western Mongolia, these were two Kazakh men. And you found them friendly and wonderful?
Oh, well, we sat down and we ate a bit of food afterwards, and then they waved me off.
They'd probably never seen anything like Veronica before.
I don't think so.
I think you made their year, maybe their decade.
They certainly made my day.
Okay, I want to know a little bit about how you spent Nadam. I saw a wonderful photo of you and Niger looking rather Mongolian, you know? Tell me
Yes.
about your experience.
I'm guilty of doing very little research, I have to admit. So when I drove into Hovde, I had no idea Nadam was on, and I just thought, wow, this town's busy.
Something's on.
And yeah, quickly realised what was happening and went out and explored. It's just the most colourful, wonderful experience of the trip, I think. You know, in the UK, I go to a lot of music festivals, which is, you know, it's all about rock and roll. But actually, the atmosphere at something like that is kind of more fulfilling in a way, because you know, the traditions that are repeated each year. You know, everybody kind of knows the pattern of how it's going to rumble, but
Yes. And of course, they're so unique, aren't they?
Yeah.
Did you manage to see the wrestling?
No, I left the day before the wrestling, but I've seen some since.
Good. You must see the wrestling.
Yeah, I enjoyed the wrestling. I saw the horse racing. I saw 90 contortionists at the opening ceremony. That was quite something. But the guys in the Gare, he had his son in one of the horse races, so they were making a big old party of it and invited me in. And,
wonderful.
Yeah.
And how did you enjoy the Mongolian food when you were in the Gare? Did they offer you sutetsai and...
Suddenly I had plates and bowls and vodka like this.
And you were okay with it? Did you join in?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I don't look a gift horse in the mouth.
Veronica, I mean, I know you can't go through them all, but tell me, what's one of the most bizarre things that's happened to you during your time in Mongolia? One of your, perhaps, your fondest recollections?
Well, that was an interesting thing. When I came to UB, actually, a friend of mine hooked me up with the Gothic bikers of UB.
Wow, the Gothic bikers in UB.
And so that was an interesting, the contrast between the country life and the life in UB is much more dramatic than in the UK, for example. I think the lifestyles are so different. And so coming from being in the desert and camping out under the stars, and then suddenly in UB with the Gothic bikers, that was interesting.
Amazing. Did you go out?
Oh, yeah. The nightclubs here are interesting.
So I've heard.
Yeah. That was a shock as well.
Veronica, as we were walking out, I mean, people look at you, and I know you must get many looks. How do you deal with people looking at you? And I mean, do you ever feel self-conscious? And what are sort of some of the comments that you might get from people? And do you realize people are looking at you and talking about you? And how do you feel with that?
Yeah. Well, I've invited it, haven't I? Just like this, but because I'm sort of wearing a costume all the time, so it gives you this sort of like a suit of armour, you know, and it gets me on a level of like role play, I suppose. So actually, I love it. When I'm not sort of dressed up, I slink around in the background. So yeah.
Can you explain to our viewers why the yellow leather and the beautiful bushy blonde wig? I mean, what does it symbolize? Why do you dress like this?
Veronica Feeling is a middle-aged woman of middle intelligence and middle allure. In short, Veronica Feeling is nothing special.
I'm nothing special.
And yet, spurred on by the mediocrity around her and fueled by dreams for something more, Veronica has turned herself around. In July 2013, Veronica got on a big turquoise motorbike, visiting 22 countries over 4 months. Touching the lives of people she met, challenging society's expectations, She is still a middle-aged woman of middle intelligence and middle and lower, but perhaps Veronica Feeling is something special after all.
Well, you know, these journeys as a solo woman were very much about showing that a woman can do these things, and that the perceived danger in the world is either not there or it's the same as it is for a man. And so I wanted to, not only to prove that, but to make it very obvious that I am the woman. That,
Making a statement.
Yeah, the sort of stereotypical fantasy woman on the bike with the blonde hair.
Yeah.
It's kind of, I was poking fun at men a little bit by choosing to look like this, and then doing something that they can't do.
And which most admire you for. I mean, that's...
Yeah. I think some guys are threatened by it, but particularly in Russia, I felt that. Yeah.
And of course, you are traveling on towards Russia on your journey home. Can you tell me how you're making your way back to the UK?
The long way.
The long way.
Yeah. I didn't realise, or I didn't fully appreciate how difficult it was going to be to arrive in UB. And when I did, and the bike has survived, and I'm alive, I thought, well, I'll just keep going. Keep going east and try and go back that way. So I'm going towards Vladivostok next, to Japan on the boat, and then somehow try and get across the big bit of water to the States.
Will there be a big welcoming committee when you arrive back? I mean...
Oh, I hope so.
I hope so. Oh, Veronica. Now, you also, when you arrived to UB, you made a couple of day trips. I know you went out to see Orkhon Valley, you went out to Big Chinggis. Tell me about what you've done since you've arrived in UB.
Sure. Well, when I'm not a motorcycle adventurer...
You're actually quite normal.
Yeah, I'm actually quite... No, not really, because I'm an artist. So I was very interested in looking at the contemporary art scene in Mongolia. And coinciding with the trip is the land art biennial in Orkhon Valley. So 20 international and Mongolian artists were invited to Orkhon Valley to create work for 2 weeks. So I went out to have a look at that. Unfortunately, my battery exploded on the journey, and I didn't make it, but I did make it to the presentations back in UB. So the artists were talking about their work, and it was very interesting to see the level of work being made.
Can you tell me about perhaps your favorite Mongolian artist, an artist whose work you particularly admire?
Yeah, you know, I'm absolutely terrible with names. The guy, his piece was called Wind Blows, Water Flows, I think. It's called Ganzag Sedbazar, I believe. So I thought that his work was very well thought out. But actually, you know, in this, is it the Zanabazar?
Yes,
museum?
Amazing gallery.
I'm really interested in the Mongol Zurag paintings. There's that one, is it One Day in Mongolia?
Yes.
And
amazing.
Yeah, they're fascinating.
Many different scenes from all over.
Exactly, but painted as though everything is happening simultaneously. So I'm quite interested in this idea of time not being in a straight line, but I could talk about that for a long time.
I want to know about your art. What sort of art do you do? You mentioned you were an artist. Yeah. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, it's difficult at the moment because obviously I have no studio on the road. But given the time and space, I make quite large-scale installations. Generally quite site-specific. You know, I get used to an area or a room in a gallery and turn it into Veronica's world. You know, but while I'm on the road, I'm writing to try and keep the momentum going.
Actually, viewers, Veronica has a website, www.veronicafeeling.com. So, I mean, you must look her up and follow her adventures, perhaps see her artwork, her writings. I mean, very inspirational and very unique. Will you be doing perhaps some Mongolian-inspired installations and artwork in the future?
Possibly in an abstract sense, because I think it's difficult to move around in a place like this without it affecting you in some way. Yeah.
That's right.
I think that the Mongolian art I've seen has got a definite flavour. You know, and the contemporary art in Europe is slightly sort of homogenised now. You can't really tell a German person's work from a French artist.
Of course.
Yeah, I like the distinction here. Yeah.
Veronica, when you get back to UK and settle down, I mean, I don't know what your plans are, but will you be coming back to Ulaanbaatar? Do you have plans to return here?
Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah. We'll see. We'll see. I've got to make it to Vladivostok first.
I'm thinking too far ahead, but I mean, we hope you do. We don't get many people like you here.
I would love to. Yeah. The space in this country is mind-blowing. It's coming from England, in a very small part of England, where the hills are tiny and the valleys are like little sort of, you know, intimate little nests. Being here and not seeing anything in either direction, but beautiful, beautiful landscape that's affected me quite a lot.
It's magical, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely magical. Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why I won't fully support making the roads better, because
I agree.
even though that was definitely the worst part of the journey was the state of the roads. But if they were smooth, then that landscape would get eaten up quite quickly.
You'd have many people zooming past. I mean, it's very tricky, as you experienced.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. Veronica, how have Mongolian men received you? I mean, have you had any marriage proposals? Been on any Mongolian dates? What's the story behind that?
I think I'm an acquired taste. I think.
But you were asked.
A lot of younger guys, I think, are slightly intimidated but intrigued. The old men think I'm fantastic. And yeah, I may have had a few invitations. Yeah, mostly they just want to get on the back of my bike and come with me.
Because of course your bike is such a rarity in Mongolia.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I'm standing there like this, and people come and look at the bike.
What about Mongolian women? How have they received you?
Do you know what? Just really positive. Just I think that woman doing it for herself with no hangers on.
Perhaps you've inspired a few.
Yeah, I hope so. I know I have in the UK.
When you were with the Gothic bikers, did you meet any women bikers who perhaps wanted to chat to you?
You know, they did tell me that in UB that they knew of about 4 or 5 women bikers who have a small club together, and they want no part of the male bikers. You know, they're separate and independent. Yeah. It made me wonder actually about biker society, because you know, you always think that it's very misogynist and very macho, and I think it's because the women in those circles let it be that way. You know, I think we need to be a bit stronger.
Speaking about being stronger, are there any people who inspire you? What motivates you to do what you do, and who inspires you?
Ooh. Well, Wonder Woman, obviously.
Of course.
Of course. I mean, I suppose there's like the adventurers like Ellen MacArthur, women who just achieve the impossible. Chrissie Hynde from The Pretenders. She was an early influence. No, it's just these strong matriarchs. Yeah.
Going on to Mongolian music, have you listened to Mongolian music? Have you been to see
I went
any
to a
band?
throat singing concert. Yeah.
In UB?
No, that was in Hovde.
In Hovde?
Yeah.
During that?
Yeah, it was one of the sort of extra sort of fringe sort of theatre pieces going on.
You know, you were lucky to catch Nadam when you were passing through, because it's usually a July celebration, but I know they celebrate it later in Hovd.
Yeah, the date escapes me at the moment, but yeah, what fun.
So you did manage to see some dirt singing. That's good.
And I did actually. I've got on the bike. I've got a little cinema, which I forgot to talk about. I can set up a screen, and I have a projector. So I was camping down by the river in Hovd and set up the screen and showed Casablanca. So
you watched it?
People.
Really?
Yeah. I've forgotten about
Casablanca with Humphrey Bogart
that.
and Norm Bacall.
And I love the, you know, it was so out of place that it became quite a big focus for a lot of the campers.
Amazing. And every night on your journey to UB, I mean, I know you'd stayed in a hotel in Olgi, but most nights, if not...
Do you know what? I don't really like camping. I knew you were going to ask that.
But you have your tent with you and you pitched it when you needed to.
I have camped a few times, and being under the stars is wonderful, but it's not very comfortable, is it? When you've been on the bike all day, it's nice to have a...
One of the things about your bike, I know you've told me before, is it's not, you don't sit up like a dirt bike, you actually have to bend over like this. Have you had backaches? I mean...
It's down here. You get this from the vibrations. Yeah, but it's fine. It hurts, but it's okay.
When you've been in UB, where have you been staying? Have you met other bikers from around the world, and what have they said to you? Have you met any solo bikers like yourself?
Only men. And yeah, they seem to be quite impressed, quietly impressed, you know.
Quietly impressed, yes.
Yeah. Because it's a big destination for bikers, because I think it's a hard route, isn't it? Yeah, but I don't know where they all hang out when they get here, because I saw a few coming in and then...
You scared them off?
I scared them off, I reckon. Do you know, it's so fun riding around UB on the bike. Because, I don't know why more people don't do it. I guess because in the winter it's too hard.
And it's so dangerous. I mean...
But the traffic's awful, so on a bike you can...
It's very slow.
Just cut
Do you
through.
weave your way?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I become like a teenage boy.
Oh my goodness. Me about you is you managed to find your way everywhere. You know, I know when I met you in Olgi, you knew where you were going. You had your maps, your GPS. I mean, you found...
I don't have a GPS.
How do you know where you're going?
I have a compass.
You use a compass and maps?
And I have an internal will to get to my destination, I think.
Well, you found us today at the Chinggis Khan Hotel.
I certainly did. Yeah.
It's nice, isn't it?
It is nice.
Have you read much about Chinggis?
I have. I've watched a programme called The Secret Life of Chinggis Khan the other day, sort of showing his softer side. I'm not sure who put the programme together, because it seemed in the conflict with everything else I'd had. You know, it's more his family life, and
he was a pussycat in real life. I mean, many people don't realize this.
Yeah.
Oh, Veronica. Well, I do hope we see you back in UB one day. It's yes, you must come here.
I wouldn't rule it out.
Yeah, I hope not. You must come in winter. I mean, it's polluted in UB, but the countryside in winter is magical. Veronica Feeling, thank you very much for being with us today. So nice knowing you.
It's been a pleasure.
I'll see you back here for the camel skiing.
Yeah,
all right, and best of luck with your journey back to the UK.
Thank you.
Yeah, via Vladivostok, Japan, and across the Atlantic. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Mick.
So that's all for Talk With Me. I hope we see you next week. If you want to read more about Veronica, you can do so on veronicafeeling.com. But for now, thank you and Dada Olsi.